everybody.
And then probably what they're also discussing now is what,
today?
if anything, will they do to retaliate, or
bombing
will this
all the
perhaps be an opening for some sort of
and we can't make them go
talks
away.
with the Iranian government, something that the White House had been calling for, but seemed increasingly unlikely in the aftermath of those U.S. airstrikes in Iran. So again, the latest here from the White House, Tom, we have not received word if the president plans to address the American people. As far as we know, he is still in the Situation Room monitoring all this with his national security staff.
Did I do the right one?
Our
I hope I did.
reporting from the White House. If you've been tuning in, we've been following the developments out of Iran and Qatar. Iran launching a retaliation strike over the U.S.'s strike on their nuclear sites over the weekend. From what we know right now from 2 U.S. officials, the Al Udeid base there in Qatar was targeted. It's the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East. Up to 5,000 American service members working there, civilians and soldiers alike, all members of the U.S. forces there.
Just checking in on the news. I'm here. Am I in the right place? I have a feeling I'm not in the right place, am I?
Intercepted by air defense systems. So far, no reports of any casualties. So far, no reports of any injuries. Iran has put out statements through their state media.
You just posited something very interesting. Oh, good. It's the twice baked.
So far,
fabulous.
No other missiles have been launched. Bahrain and the UAE also closing their airspace.
Gal, you just brought up something very interesting in another communication.
As events warrant, we'll have much more ahead on our streaming network right now. NBC News Now.
Oh, I guess that was it for them. Okay, that's fine.
Tonight on Nightly News when I see you.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, are you
Everyone,
going to do
I'm
something?
Sinclair. My co-anchor Kate Snow is off today, and NBC News Daily starts.
The golden age. Yeah, the golden age, folks. We're just listening to NBC.
Today.
But this little bitch kitten is coming up next. Anyways, hi everyone, welcome back. This is Twice Baked. This is Twice Baked with Lolo. We found you, Lolo. That's all that counts. Oh my God, what happened? What did I do? Did I do something? I could have done something. I think I probably did. I'm sorry. I'm new here. Hi. I should have like a little training uniform on. I'm in training. Be gentle. Yeah, it's been 3 years, but who cares? Crispy gnome issued a nationwide terror alert today. Yeah, I would imagine that things are getting a little spicy. I mean, what the actual F? If our U.S. strikes did in fact take out a major part of the nuclear, do you not want me to read that? Do you not want me to read that, Gal? Because I thought that was a very interesting consideration. I am a really hot baked potato. Oh, Badger, are you in the warm part? I'm so sorry. I have a fan blowing on me, so I don't really. Okay, good. Okay, good. I have a fan blowing on me, so it's not that bad, but I really feel sorry for. I know it's going to get hot here, just like it's getting hot in other parts of the country. I don't have air conditioning either, and so I totally understand. I think we got your heat wave. Humidex here is 44, 111. Is that like a percent? In the bake zone. Oh, the other baked. I'm going to join you very soon. Yeah, so installed auxiliary window unit started first cold brew of season. Oh, well, enjoy that. Enjoy that very much. Neil says, I don't know what that $sign CX is. Oh, it's like an equivalent of 111 degrees. Oh, 44 Celsius is 111 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's warm. That's warm. That's real warm. Okay, good. So Gal has an interesting, observation, which I wanted to read to you because I thought it was a very interesting observation. If our U.S. strikes did in fact take out a major part of their nuclear material and capabilities, wouldn't these retaliatory strikes be much worse? Are they just responding now with this to make it seem like they're big mad at us when in reality they moved their stuff before our B-2 bombers came in? And I've seen some reporting, I can't recall the outlet right at the moment, but I did see some reporting with Oh, it was stupid Steve Lookner. Oh my God, what am I thinking? Yeah, it was, what's his name? Steve Lookner, who agenda free. He's not stupid, but I mean, there, if you know, you know. But anyway, I was watching Steve, and he reported through Reuters that they had satellite images of before the strikes on the areas that were struck, as well as after. But the before the strikes showed a lot of movement of trucks and things prior to the strike, which would make sense. And I think understanding like whatever the protocols of war seem to be, I don't really get it. It's not my thing. But depending on that, I wonder if like there's so much communication about what's going to happen next. But I think that the fact that that was kind of a more performative response, I mean, obviously we have yet to see what again transpires, because they only just shot missiles in retaliation towards air bases in the Middle East, American air bases, which are reported now to have been intercepted and not caused any damage. And a good observation I heard on the news is that doesn't necessarily always hold. So it's kind of like we should wait and see what actually the damage is. But nonetheless, I think the point is a good one, that given the extent of damage done to Iranian nuclear material and capabilities, wouldn't they, if they were really truly, like, wouldn't they just respond with much stronger, more lethal response? This felt more like a, well, you hit us, so now we're going to hit you, and I know that no strike is innocent or not dangerous to human life, so I don't want to minimize that. But I'm just saying, it does seem that the response could have been more forceful. And not to say, and I realize that the response is not done. I know there's a lot of different tools in the arsenal that people use to retaliate against countries they don't like. I understand that. So I don't know, but I thought that was a very interesting early observation. In that I'm in a brick house, and I think the way it's oriented just stays cool. I think brick houses are very good for that, right? Don't they? Oh, dollar's a typo. He just plays one in the internet. Yeah, but I'm going to give it to him for his stamina. Steve Lookner, that is. He has pretty good stamina, and he had a moment too last night. I don't know, Oomph, if you were watching or other people were watching, but he had this moment last night at the end where he goes, because he said the U.S. government told one version of a story. Oh, told us that the B-52s were moving to Guam. He said, and it turns out that they lied to us about that. And I could almost tell for a moment that Steve Lookner said to himself in his brain, oh my God. Because then he started talking in a real media literacy tone, like, you can't just believe what the government tells you. And I could tell he was getting pushback. I wasn't watching the screen, but I could tell he was getting pushback in his chat on that, that's strategy, that's this, that's that, or whatever they were saying to him. And he literally was having this awakening moment, like, oh my God, I really should think about media literacy a lot more. I don't think that was what he was thinking, but that's what I saw when I turned to the screen. That's what I saw on his face, was like, wow, maybe I'm not doing a service by just reporting this shit straight on, and maybe I should help my viewers understand what might be a good source of information and what might not be a good source of information, and that sometimes the government is not a good source of information. And then beginning to realize that maybe he couldn't trust this administration more than he could maybe perhaps trust past administration. It was just a real moment, and it might have just happened in my head, It might have just happened in my head, but I thought, oh man, Steve, come on. Closer, closer, closer. Come closer, Steve. Come closer to me. Yeah, behavior really matters. No, I don't think it was a conscious epiphany. I don't think he said, oh my God, I think he was just like the wheels were really turning, right? Oh, Iked Mel is a MAGA chud. He's a fucking asshole. I can't stand that guy. Oh my God, transphobe and all kinds of bullshit. That's a trash show. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But he is. He's a MAGA. You have to wait for it, but it really comes out pretty fast. At least Steve pretends to just not care about either side. He's just reporting the breaking news that comes to him through the Reuters service that he's subscribed to. Anyway, we're waiting for Bondi to start. Of Pamela Bondage. That's my biopic for her. Of Pamela Bondage. I think that's gonna work. It's a working title, but I think it's gonna stick. And I don't quite get Steve. No, I don't get any of them. I mean, I do get them. And I'm going to tell you, I do admire the fact that, are you kidding me? You saw him at the Deplorable? Really? Oh my gosh. Well. It could Mel or Steve Lookner. It must be. I mean, Icked Mel's in Florida, so perhaps it was a Florida thing. Yep. Oh, yes. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense. Lookner was formerly on RSBN when? Max, I've watched RSBN since the beginning. I do not recall him being on RSBN. Oh, Lookner was. Oh, that I could see. He's an opportunist. I don't think he has any actual deep feelings about anything, which is just as bad as being a MAGA, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think Lookner was on RSBN. Hi, butterflies. But I could be wrong. But I really think I watched that from its nascent whatever. Just got a thing that someone might concur with Gal's assessment of the preliminary situation. He was on it. Google it. I will Google it. I must have missed it. Maybe I was too focused on Tintin. I might have been too focused on Brian Glenn. That might have been it. Or maybe I missed the early days. The Deplorable, it was a fundraiser, I guess, for MAGA chuds. Was it a Roger Stone event? Was that a Roger Stone event, Gal? I can't recall. Who were the MAGA turdy faces that were on it? Greetings. Hi, Hans. How are you? Welcome back. Good to see you. We're waiting for Pam Bondi. We're waiting for Nazi Barbie to start her justification for overspending money so she could send the Gestapo into our cities. Nothing unusual. But it's good to see you. Good Nabend, I guess. Well, actually, it's probably evening there. It's probably good Nacht. No, that means I'm like going to bed, right? I don't want to say that because no one's going to bed yet. Found at least one video of Steve Lookner. Oh, God, man. What? I would have eaten my hat on that one, girl. I would have. I'm so glad I didn't actually agree to eat my hat. Wait, I gotta see some.
Clever action this time.
Holy shit balls! I'm so sad right now. You don't even know how sad I am.
Read their message.
I'm looking. So Kayla said, I sent you a DM on Twitter, Steve. There's a petition to make face concealment illegal at the rallies. Stay safe tomorrow.
Thank you.
Drink water. Mm-hmm.
You know, you can click on the top too. Click there.
See? Oh, that makes sense too. Well, here's the next one. It's from
so sad right now. Oh my God. What? Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I'm so sad. Actually, I'm not sad because I hate Steve Lookner. This actually might have just given me the reason I hate Steve Lookner so much and I'm so sus of him now is probably all my fears are confirmed. So thank you, Max. I eat my I metaphorically eat my hat. Oh my God. Oh my God. Liz Willis's voice gives me a migraine. You know what I did though? I didn't get it on Truth Social, which really was one of my lifelong regrets. But when remember when Frank Speech had a social media app that they wanted to launch at the same time as Truth Social, by the way? Do you remember that? Frank Speech, Mike Lindell? He was going to launch the app that had whatchamacallit? The app that had like social media, like postings and shit. Well, so he launched it. He actually did launch it, but I literally went in and grabbed like Liz at Frank's Speech or something like that because she was so obsessed with getting Liz on all the social media platforms at the time. So I went in there and I fucking nailed it and I got it before she did. I felt really good about it. I was really upset that I didn't get into Truth Social and take all the names. That's what you should do. If you have a right-wing platform, go in and take all their names. So they have to come up with like Liz Willis 17897 or something. What bases did Iran hit? They shot at what's the name of the base? Hold on. It's actually not just a base, by the way. It's where the Central Command is located for that region. Okay, so it's not just a base, which is interesting. Okay, and let me Al-Udeid. Let me show you. But they did it 6 missiles towards U.S. bases. Oh, Reuters reporting bases. What does that mean? More than one? Or base. Okay, Fox is saying base. Oh, here, I have a map. It's 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 a map. Okay, this is the Axios map, so take it with a slight throw up in your mouth. I can't stand him and never could. Don't watch his channel. And here's the thing, butterflies. The only reason I put it on is because sometimes it's the only option in my algorithm. Al-Udeid. Thank you. Al-Udeid. Thank you so much, gal. Al-Udeid. Yeah, exactly. Now I know. Now I really know butterflies. I hate his chat, and that's probably with good reason. Somebody should really ask him about his time on RSBN, frankly. That would be really interesting. Maybe I would like to interview you, Steve Lookner, you idiot. I guess that would be probably not a way that you would come and be on my show, but that's okay. Anyway. So is the Al-Udeid base, which is actually home of Central Command in that region. So it's not just a base, and it's what gal is it, like 4,000 people? I mean, it's quite a number of people. It's a huge base. So here we go. Here is Iran. Okay. Oops. Here's Iran. Here's my little pointer. Can you see my pointer on it? No, you can't really. That's not showing up. Okay. Anyway, so there's there it is. So there's Iran, obviously. And here we go. Here is the Al-Udeid air base in Qatar. It's in Doha, right? U.S. Central Command Regional Headquarters. So you see how close it is? And then I guess this is long-term U.S. military base site with U.S. military presence is the gray dots. So the orange dots are where we actually have bases, right? There's Bahrain, UAE, and then Kuwait. We have 5 long-term military bases in Kuwait. I didn't realize that. That's this large orange dot in the middle. And then the gray dots in Oman, here in Saudi Arabia, etc., Jordan, Syria, etc. These are site with U.S. military presence in the region. And then there's Israel here. And this, I believe, is the Strait of Hormuz, where they can threaten to cut off access, which is very important orientation for, impact to the flow of oil, frankly. So, interesting. I'll link that one in the chat as well for this show. Then we have these douche whistles are going to come on. They're going to tell you what they're going to do to your health insurance. That's exciting. Not. But we're waiting for Pam Bondi. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. I will continue to watch Lookner only because he pulls right now from relatively decent sources, although his prognostications and his reading of chat is just beyond delusional and sad and harmful to your media literacy. But he does at least cover some of the what I might want to do, which is go between different sources and pull in different information. But no, he's not my. I will not. He's and now I'm like, oh my god, I'm really sad. Now it's just everything's confirmed. Everybody's a shithead. Normie barometer. What's a normie barometer? I don't know what that means. I mean, in what context? Okay, but mustn't we assume RSBN is among those agendas he now aspires to contest? Well, I'm not really. Yeah, I believe that while he may want to think that he's agenda free, he's not by mere virtue of the fact of what content he chooses to share. That's not agenda free. Because if it were agenda free, he tries, I think, to stick to facts. He's very highly strung, and frankly, he gets a little too excited when people are about to die. So that I find very uncomfortable and revolting, actually. It makes me sick to my stomach when he gets really excited about the fact that people might die or get hit. That's right. He was a writer. I think he's just one of those guys, failed writer, frankly, which is fine. There's a lot of us that are failed something, so that's fine. I mean, I'm failed plenty of things. Yeah, I would miss him. I would miss him. I would get your breaking news from other sources if you have options. We like to make fun of him, and I do tend to, unfortunately patronize his channel. I don't give him money. I don't mean that. I mean, I just watch it sometimes. Yeah, you're definitely not missing anything. Yeah. Yeah, the ghoulish craving of visible destruction and harm to actual people is where I really get sick to my stomach with him. So there's that. Let me see if there's anything else that I have. I have a lot of stuff actually because I had stuff in my bookmarks that we didn't even get to this morning. Oh my god. So if Pammy's going to make us wait, man, we're not waiting for this bitch. We're not waiting for you to come around and do your trouble. Let me see what this is. Oh, we never did read this, and Tina has brought it back into my life again, of which I am always grateful. So I think I'm actually going to just try and start this article while we wait for Pam Bondi to figure her shit out, to stop pooping. And we'll read about this guy. This might be coming in handy to know who's behind our terrorism prevention programming. I don't know. Yeah. It's so true. Okay, so this is from ProPublica. We love ProPublica, and I want to say this is from Tina. Beautiful, beautiful Tina, who, if you don't know, she's not able to frequent chat, but she's one of my dearest friends. She's part of what we loosely call the Gal Squad, just a group of friends that came together a few years ago because of the research that each were doing in their respective areas and just following each other on Twitter. So, and then we've been friends ever since. And so Tina has been a core founding member of the Gal Squad, if you will. And she is fucking amazing. Her detail, her threads, which she bemoans quite loudly, like, I know I'm doing another thread, but she really threads it like nobody's business when it comes to documenting, again, just like Gal, some of the real detailed
fraud and corruption.
Shit.
This administration has directly undermined and even removed over a dozen of these offices.
All right, I'll be quiet.
Waste, fraud, and abuse are not the targets of the President Trump's White House. They are the primary objectives. This budget does not put the safety and security of the American people first. It puts white-collar criminals, drug traffickers, and violent offenders first, while eviscerating your department's ability to stop them.
Pam's getting a little mad already.
Justice exists to uphold the rule of law.
She's like, I did
the
not
American
poop
people
enough
deserve
for this.
assurance that everyone will be treated equally under the law. Instead, this administration breaks the law with reckless abandon. President Trump, like every other American, must follow the law. Russ Vought must follow the law. Secretaries Noem and Kennedy and McMahon must follow the law. And we must understand why your department is complicit in law-breaking from the highest office. I yield back.
I think my chair just broke.
We want to say congratulations to
Fun.
the Attorney General on her selection to this.
Look at how
But she brings a great
bedroomy eyes she is with him.
Florida, in her earlier part of her life. So we're proud of you, and we welcome you to the subcommittee. And you're now recognized for an opening statement, which will be entered into the record.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Rogers, Member DeLauro, and Ranking Member Meng, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. I'm honored to appear before you today to present the President's fiscal year 2026 budget for the Department of Justice. I look forward to working with all of you to ensure continued support for the department and our many critical missions. President Trump's
everybody, Helen Mirren is here.
Budget proposal totals $34 billion for the Department of Justice. That money will support federal law enforcement as well as our state, local, and tribal law enforcement partners. My primary objective as Attorney General is to return the department to its core mission of keeping Americans safe and vigorously enforcing the law. This budget will allow us to continue doing just that. Since January 20th, we have dismantled deadly fentanyl networks across our country. We prosecuted MS-13 and TDA members using terrorism and RICO charges. We've seized thousands of illegal guns from cartels and extradited key cartel leaders into U.S. prisons. Last month, the FBI arrested 205 child predators in a single operation, and the DEA executed the largest fentanyl bust in the history across 4 states. We have also surged FBI resources to investigate thousands of violent crimes committed against American Indian and Alaskan Native people. These are just a few examples of what we've achieved thus far. The budget will allow us to continue doing our crucial work. We've also led the charge to enforce our immigration laws, rebuild our immigration system after 4 years of chaos, help secure our nation's borders, moreover. We must guarantee that our laws allow us to process, hold, and remove those who enter our country illegally. Our U.S. attorneys continue to effectively work with law enforcement at all levels to investigate and prosecute the increasing volume of immigrated-related criminal offenses. Additionally, the President and I have established and reinvigorated 3 task forces to enforce the administration's priorities. The Homeland Security Task Force is enhancing federal and state law enforcement cooperation to destroy criminal cartels, foreign gangs, and transnational criminal organizations throughout our country. Joint Task Force Alpha will continue to specifically target the human trafficking and human smuggling networks that took root while our border was wide open. And Joint Task Force Vulcan will continue successful efforts to arrest and prosecute members of TDA and MS-13. We are also committed to making America safe again by reducing recidivism. The Bureau of Prisons has suffered mismanagement, lack of funding, and low morale. Throughout my confirmation process,
those are really for the cats. They're not for me.
Every single meeting, regardless of the senator's party. The president's budget proposal will address critical staffing shortages, enhance staff retention, and deliver positive changes to a system that has long needed improvements. The resources made available through President Trump's proposal will also empower the department to continue fighting our war on fentanyl. Since January 2025, the DEA has already seized 41.5
yeah, Lockhart,
million
you're right.
fentanyl pills and 4,470
Most of the child predators are Republican Congress people.
powder. It's a historic rate.
Never mind the
but it's
pastors.
Not enough. We won't rest until this poison is off our streets.
Yeah.
And finally, the 2026 budget continues my commitment to find savings in the department, reduce inefficiencies, and deliver value to the American taxpayer.
Yeah, we got those.
In fiscal year 2026, the department will merge components that will work in overlapping areas and make our law enforcement and grant-making efforts more effective. We will emerge from this work as a leaner organization, better equipped to keep the American people safe. Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member DeLauro, Ranking Member Mang, it is my pleasure to highlight our efforts to be good stewards of these resources. I am working diligently to restore confidence and integrity to the department and each of these components. Thank you for your
Buddy with fentanyl
continued
implant
support of the
infused spine will be
department's
dismayed to hear
financial
that. Yeah.
and for the opportunity to present our budget request. I also would ask
Cancer
all of us
patients
now
relying
to
on
pray for our
fentanyl to
troops in Qatar.
Amen.
I look forward to working with you,
help
and I'm
ease
now
their
happy
pain.
to take any questions you might have.
We will proceed under the 5-minute rule, and I will yield myself.
This guy's a fucking pig, by the way, the guy that's speaking now.
Attorney
He needs to
General,
just have an aneurysm
rural
right
America,
now.
Many parts of the country, including my district, continue to suffer from the lethal effects of illicit drug use and overdose deaths.
He sounds like he's on them right now.
Your 26 budget proposed to address
Does she
drug
seem
crime,
nervous?
such as trafficking and the
Does she
influx.
seem nervous?
What are you doing differently than in the past?
Chairman, what we are doing, we are focusing all of our law enforcement agencies on
No, you're
getting
not.
these drugs off of
But
our
no, you're not.
streets.
You're
Since
not,
I was
though.
a state AG, I focused on the opioid crisis.
But she's not, because her DHS, or not DHS, but her police force or whatever, the FBI, they're in Los Angeles stopping people who are just trying to get work or at their appointments or something, okay? So this is a lie. So I'm going to point that out. This is a lie.
I focused with all of our agencies working hand in hand on
This is just
the
a
drug
lie.
crisis.
Like, it's just a
Securing
fucking
our
lie.
borders, I believe, was the first step. We will continue to do that. On May 22nd, I believe, Chairman, we announced the success of Operation Raptor, the FBI-led DOJ operation that targeted fentanyl trafficking on the dark web. That's become a huge problem.
Hey,
you know,
good
with added technology
question,
now.
Butterflies. Butterflies asks a good question. How's that fent getting in then? Borders are closed. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I think Crispy OD'd on Twinkies, okay?
We have seen drug trafficking increased not only across our borders, not only through the mail, but also on the web. And that's something I believe
Pam
that we
Bondi's
can all work together
brain
on.
is
I
rattling
believe that
around in her head right
crosses
now.
Party lines. That's something that we all need to work together on.
Girl, you're not
We've
working on
seized
shit.
144
Give me a break.
kilos of fentanyl, 180
From
firearms,
who?
and over $200 million in currency and digital
When?
assets, working with 9 international partners.
When?
And arresting 270 drug traffickers
When?
across 4 continents.
When?
And that was all because of Operation Raptor.
When?
On May 6th, we executed the biggest fentanyl bust in DEA's history. We dismantled a Sinaloa cartel that
now we have to
trafficked
go over.
across 5 states: New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Oregon, and Nevada. We seized 412 kilos of fentanyl pills, 11.5 kilos of fentanyl powder, and 49 illegal firearms. We arrested 16 accused drug traffickers.
16?
These cartels, these gangs are so organized that they insulate their leaders. The leader of this particular cartel was living in Oregon, yet none of the drugs were with him. This was incredible
diabolical
police work by all of our agencies, federal agencies, working hand
I just feel like I need more
hand
details
to track them down. I met in conference rooms. We had charts, and I would invite any of you members on both sides of the aisle to come in and see these investigations of what we are trying to do to get these drugs off our streets. They are so complex. They are so complicated. And what our law enforcement have been doing is really second to none. And I am so proud. They are some of the bravest in the world.
I mean, with conference phones.
And I am so proud of what they have been doing, working with all of our state and local partners to eradicate these drugs. My point of that was in Oregon, was the leader of this particular,
brings up a good point. Then the existing policies are working. They're not doing anything different at the border than they were doing under Biden. The inland Gestapo is the issue.
We were able to catch him thanks to great police work, and we will continue to do that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Task forces.
Yeah. I hope we can take you up on that.
Yes, we have a meeting coming up soon. By the way, they're coping hard, and their opinions are changing so fast they'll need
indicated a lot of precursor chemicals that
are we for this war or against it?
Are now being now going to terrorist organizations that reroute the precursors into our country through the northern border. What can you say about that?
Yes, Chairman, that's accurate. You know, I've been fighting this fentanyl epidemic since I was a state AG, when it really first came on the market. Ironically, I was recently in Poland at a security conference with all of my counterparts around the world, and I will never forget something they said to me. My counterpart in Poland said, fentanyl is
Get your hand off of that intern.
Yet, because they protect their borders. And yes, the northern border is now a great concern to all of us. I would think to everyone on this committee. And yeah, that's it. That's a great concern, but we will continue to do that. We are fighting to protect those precursors from coming in, as we know. And you know, what they keep doing is they're changing the precursors. And they continue to change them, and they continue to send them through Mexico, through Canada, on ships, through our ports of entry, into our country. But that's something we have to all work together on to stop. I went to our DEA lab. I met with our DEA. It only takes, it looks like almost 2 grains of salt. I had them put sodium chloride in a little bottle so I could show people. That's what it takes to kill you. And that's what our kids are taking. They don't realize that it is mixed. They think they're buying a Xanax, an Adderall. I can't say this enough. An oxycodone pill. They think they are buying something else, and this junk is being laced, this poison, into these pills throughout our country.
Where have we heard this before?
I feel like we can all
Where have we heard this? We just watched a movie last
stop
week
it.
about
Yes,
called.
Sorry, a very long answer.
We just watched a movie last week called The 13th, right, which kind of captures a lot of the Black history post slavery, and it's a great foundational movie, I think, for understanding some of the things that we have not been taught in our schools, but I digress. But in that movie, they talked about the war on drugs and the incarceration, and how that those things, including Democratic and Republican presidents, used the war on drugs as a way, and this lacing and the crack and all the same conversations we're having about fentanyl these days. They used that as a precursor to then incarcerate millions and millions of mostly Black Americans who were targeted and the 3 strikes rule and all of the terrible decisions that were made that have led to mass incarceration in this country and the private prison system and all the things that we abhor. And now I hear the same refrains in the fentanyl arguments around the cartels and the rounding up of people who have brown skin in this country and profiling and all of the things that are happening right now today in out in the open, except in instead of less obvious, but still happening. And I think to myself, well, this is really a way, and I thought about it last week, and I'm sure, a couple of you smarter people have already thought this through, but it really just strikes me as another precursor to the mass incarceration of anyone that appears associated with Mexico or any South American country, basically any person with brown skin, frankly. And in a way that will profile them and seek to increase the imprisoned population of Latino friends and neighbors in similar ways that they did especially from the 80s and beyond. So I think it's really interesting. Why aren't we seeing the reps asking questions? She's in her opening. Oh no, I don't know. This is Fox. That's why, because they love her. They love them some Pam. I can find another version of it, but yeah. So I think we've had such historical opportunities to challenge these things, and I know very good people have challenged these things in the moment. But I hope there's a widespread understanding of what's afoot here. That this is a real repeat of other tactics that have ended up with incredible destruction for families and all of us and our communities. So anyway, I don't know, just something I thought of, because it's all the same, rinse and repeat. Oh, they're lacing fentanyl with this, or they're lacing this with fentanyl, or they're doing this, and then and war on drugs bullshit. But to Lucy's mommy's point, she's always smart. Let me find a station that is a little more like regular in its presentation of this, so that we don't have to stare at Amazon hair Barbie, Nazi Barbie, Ava Brown Barbie. Let's see. Good one. Oh no, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Oh do. Well, the time no. Where's like the actual one? Where's like the Senate one? Or the House one? Sorry for this. Oh, I have the PBS. Let's see if the
of those so far, because people have reached.
Let's see. That's the PBS. That's probably a better version. Hold on. Thank you, Lucy's mommy. I love good feedback. And Lookner has it. Oh, okay. PBS. Yeah, that's the one I've got now. So that'll be a little bit better. Thank you, Lucy's mommy. I love you. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. Oh, don't hate the color of her suit. I really don't. Let's go back to when the Democrat starts questioning her. Grace Meng, I love her. I love you. You're amazing. Oh, look at Sleepy Pam Bondi. Okay, here we go. Thanks for that interruption.
To end the grant programs that may help prevent some of these hate crimes. As you may know, I was the author of one of these programs, the Community-Based Approaches to Advancing Justice program, which was created in fiscal year 2022. This program supported local groups working to increase hate crimes reporting, give community members resources in languages other than English, and to improve relationships between local law enforcement and the community. It was a direct response to the rise in hate crimes targeting Asian Americans during the COVID-19 pandemic. You may recall in March 2021, 6 women of Asian descent were tragically murdered in Atlanta, Georgia. My Hate Crimes Act passed through Congress in May of that year with bipartisan support, including from several of my colleagues on the other side of the dais. For years, I've been hearing from constituents about how scared they felt and have been hearing from members of these communities as well as experts who've told me that one of the best ways to combat hate in this country is to fund prevention programs. So not just prosecution, but also prevention. I have a letter here that hate crime survivors and family members wrote to you in May, expressing their strongest concerns about the termination of these grants. Signed by people like family members of Emmett Till, James Byrd Jr., Matthew Shepard, and survivors of the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the hearing record this letter from these survivors and family members to Attorney General Bondi regarding the termination of hate crimes related grant programs.
You have to say something, you fat fuck.
Oh, yes, without objection.
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, I absolutely share your support for our law enforcement and for the prosecution of hate crimes in a just way. But we must combat all forms of hate on all fronts, bringing together law enforcement and community leaders and members of the public. And these grant programs have helped many communities do exactly this. So I just wanted to ask and hear from you why there is a proposal to eliminate the 3 largest sources of DOJ funding for hate crime prevention programs.
Yeah, and Ranking Member, can you list those 3 for me again? And I'm sorry, I have not received your letter yet, but I would welcome working with you on any issue regarding hate crimes.
I haven't gotten it?
In the Asian American community, in any community.
Really?
I welcome working with you on that.
Okay, yeah, I would love to. And this letter was sent May 15th, and we'll make sure that you and your team have received it. So the programs, one of them, for example, is named the Community-Based Approaches to Advancing Justice. 3 programs have been cut, and one of these programs literally help support our law enforcement departments locally, like our NYPD, to train and respond to hate crimes.
Let me see. So,
well, let me write that down.
We have 5,800 grants, Chairman, that come, Ranking Member, excuse me, that come through my office. 365 have been cut so far. That's approximately 6%.
Ooh,
what I will
how
tell
many
you
lives
is
does that represent?
We have turned back on 13 of those so far because people have reached out to me.
Really?
If you want to reach
so
out
you
and talk to me directly, I will give you my cell phone.
You can personally ask for your grant to be reinstated, but you're going to have to call Barbie. You're going to have to call Mama. You're going to have to call Mama and ask her if she'll do it. Yeah, because it's just not going to happen, okay? Get a grip.
Phone. I would love to sit down with you and see if we can work that out.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar
you can kiss my
with
ass
those
enough
3 directly. But again, we will, if you have on either side of the aisle any grants that you believe should be back on, I would love to.
They're just admitting it out loud. They're just admitting it out loud. Those grants were approved by the Congress. Okay, can we just stop this for a minute? Stop the madness. The grants that she is talking about are grant programs that have already been approved by Congress. They were then illegally canceled by through direction of Russ Vought, the evil dork lord. And she has the testicles to sit there and say, well, Congresswoman, you can call me if you want that program that helps police respond to hate crimes in New York City. I mean, I guess you can call me and ask me nicely, pretty please, with a cherry on top. If you are an American who pays taxes, or if you're even not, You should be absolutely motherfucking livid because you elect Congress people so that they will work out the details of whether or not a grant is worthy of being paid. And let me tell you, they're the hardest grants to get in the world. So nobody's skating by and getting an easy gravy grant, okay? That doesn't happen in government grant making. I know. I did. I was part of that process. I was a grant seeker for over 20 years. I'm not just some yahoo that doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But if you think this is at all the right way to go about auditing expenditures, you're so fucking stupid. And they're taking your money. Well, they're taking all of our money, but they're taking your money and they're just saying, oh, I know the elected people, this is the Congress is us, in essence. Oh, so the people have decided that this is the way the money should be spent, but we don't want to. Oh, but if you come and kiss my ass and have like a fresco with me, maybe you're going to have to be nice. You're going to have to pose with me in a MAGA hat. So I can show the big boss that I did a good job today.
To meet with you and work with you on that. We're doing that on a case-by-case basis.
People.
And law enforcement is my top priority,
This
especially
isn't just
hate
some
crimes.
faceless
violence
number
against
of a
women.
grant. That's people's
everything
lives,
I've done my
jobs,
entire career as a
work,
prosecutor.
good
I think we have a
community
former
work.
prosecutor in the room too. And I look forward to working with you on this and seeing what we can do to help
This
you.
is an
Great. We'd love to
absolute
work together,
takeover
and
by
we
an
will flag all the
authoritarian
programs
regime that
have
is
been
out of
impacted,
control.
including those that directly support our local law enforcement, like NYPD. And just
Which
to
really
be
shouldn't
more
matter who it
specific, the three
supports,
programs
by the way.
mentioned are community-based
For fuck's
approaches,
sake.
Jabara Hire, No Hate,
I
and
get it.
Shepherd
Everybody has
Bird.
to
No
fucking-
Hate, Shepherd Bird. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General, for being here today. You know, when the DOJ submitted their budget, the United States was a nation at peace, and now we're a nation at war. So my questions are going to be focused on national security. How many Iranian sleeper cells do we suspect are in the United States?
Look at his red little cheeks.
Congressman, I can't talk about that in this setting.
I can't talk about it.
But what I can tell you is I know Homeland Security, I know the FBI. They are focusing on doing everything we can to keep our nation safe.
How are you
and
doing
they will
that?
continue to do that.
That sounds really passionate.
Yeah, it's a frightening time.
It sounds like a feeling
right now. But President Trump is committed to keeping all Americans safe.
Okay, but that's not a plan, honey. That's not a plan.
Great, thank you. How many active cases of threats to the homeland does DOJ currently have open as of today?
Countless.
No, that's not a number.
I can't talk about
that's not a number.
In the setting either. Obviously,
wow, really?
Pending,
you guys not coordinate before this?
National security
I don't get
issues, but there is not a day that goes by that we don't discuss the issues that you just brought up with me at the Department of Justice. But I also know that our counterparts at DOD,
Grace Lisa. I like Grace Lisa.
HSI, the State Department, and all of our agencies are working together to make America safe and in turn keep our world safe.
This is very much on my mind. I spent 20 years in the military. I spent 5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. These aren't, of course, these aren't dots on a board. And, you know, not only American lives abroad, what we saw today, are at risk, but it's also American lives here at home. And I don't want us looking back and going, what if? I want us to, as much as we can, get ahead of it, to give you the resources, the instruments that you need to go out and make sure that we're preventing things from happening, not waiting until after the fact. There was a report, you know, of over 1,500 Iranian nationals that have entered the country illegally over the last several years.
All I saw was
Do we know out of those over 1,500 how many of those have been convicted of a crime?
We're at war after all.
Yeah,
yep, Val.
I don't have the number of the conviction, but it's well over 1,000 have entered. Yes, I don't know if it's quite up to 1,500, but yes, it's well over 1,000 have entered our country. And I can tell you we are on high alert, and everyone is looking at that very closely.
Everyone's looking at it very closely.
Just,
like what?
Some
like,
things just don't line
right
up
now?
as far as us. I see the world is on fire now more than ever before, right? Once again, when this budget was submitted, we were a nation at peace, and now things have changed. I look at this, I see law enforcement and national security has a reduction of $645 million, over 1,500 positions. The notes I have, the FBI will implement cost-saving measures. The largest decreases will be in criminal, cyber, response, and service branches, and national security branches. FBI's criminal investigation, cyber, and international operations will reduce resources and support various investigations and partnerships. Additionally, the counterintelligence, counterterrorism, threat screening, and weapons of mass destruction programs experience reductions. I mention those things because those, in my eyes, those are the programs that we need more resources to, more manpower to. And not everything's about money. I mean, you alluded to this. A lot of times it's about being more efficient with the things that you're doing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the way we're looking to get ahead of any problem sets.
Thank you, and we can do more with less. Of course, you can always do more with more, but we're doing more with less.
You can do more with more, but we can do more with less.
We're refocusing, and the budget request supports $7.5 billion for national security. Also, that's why it's very important, I believe, for all of you to support Big Beautiful Bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill gives us a lot of additional funding at the Department of Justice to carry out our mission. The Senate version gives us $11.82 billion. Currently, the House version gives us $3.3 billion. Hopefully, they will come to a compromise in there, but that's where it will truly help Department of Justice combat all of the issues that you brought up and many others. And thank you for your service to our country, especially now. I didn't realize that you had served in Iraq. Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. And thank you for saying that. I mean, resources matter. And the Big Beautiful Bill, we look forward to getting that to the president's desk as soon as possible. Once again, to give you the resources and the tools you need to get ahead of these problems that we see so clearly coming through. I represent nearly half of the southern border. The border is on my mind quite a bit. One of the questions I have, I focus a lot on convicted criminal illegal aliens. Do we know how many illegal aliens have been convicted of a crime in the United States?
Yeah, I can get you those specific numbers. I don't know, but many. I can tell you our prosecutors are indicting and charging illegal aliens constantly, violent crimes, rapes, thefts,
all kinds of bad stuff
crimes
that nobody can disagree
with. Yes, our borders were wide open, and Congressman, back in September, I went to our border at Yuma, Arizona, not in Texas, but in Yuma.
You know, that Russell Crowe movie.
At our border, what I saw firsthand, we saw IDs just dropped. From every country you can imagine.
Every
El
country
Salvador,
you
Venezuela,
can imagine.
China.
China.
Every country you can imagine. And of course, I didn't see Iranian driver's license, but they are coming into our country. Yes,
I don't even know what their driver's license look like, really.
But just walking into our country. And that's why Homeland Security, that's why ICE, that's why the FBI, that's why all of our agencies, DEA, ATF, are all working hand in hand to combat that.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Americans safe. And that is what President Trump is committed to doing.
Like I said.
Chairman, I yield back.
I don't even know what was the question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick note before I get to my questions. Fentanyl seizures are down 30% compared to last year. And that data is coming from the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP. I don't make it up. But fentanyl seizures are down. At your confirmation hearing, you asserted that you will do everything in your power to prevent illegal gun runners in our country. Your budget request for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, proposes a cut of 26% below the current level. How can you justify such a massive cut without inevitably weakening ATF's ability to help our state and local law enforcement fight illegal gun trafficking? How many ATF law enforcement officers and industry operations investigators do you anticipate will be lost to attrition as a result of this funding?
It's about reflective of the national average. 85% of Americans say they've had pre-auth affect them in ways they wish it hadn't. It's the #1.
So sorry, we're switching up.
Patients, but providers,
just want to watch what these morons are going to say about our insurance.
With this issue. We have spoken frequently about how Health and Human Services and the agency
switching. We're talking about insurance.
Is open for business. We like to have private solutions when they're feasible. And today you're going to hear about one of the biggest ones possible, one that will address this issue of prior authorization. In 2023, the last data year for which we have strong data, the Medicare Advantage program, which administers care to total Medicare is about 68 million people. Half of that is Medicare Advantage. So it's 32 million people, a lot of folks. Partially or fully denied 3.2 million claims, initial requests for prior authorization. It's a lot of people, not just numbers. Those are individuals who often in the most vulnerable time in their lives needed something done, and it was denied for one reason or another. Each week, on average, a physician handles about 40 of these pre-authorization issues and requests, and spends about 12 hours a week on paperwork in general, often aimed at addressing the prior authorization issue. It frustrates doctors. It sometimes results in care that is significantly delayed. It erodes public trust in the healthcare system. It's something we can't tolerate. This administration, and under the leadership of Secretary Kennedy, this agency has not wanted and has been expressing its frustration. And for good reason, because of that, and because of folks who actually maybe entered into the industry because they had the right motivations at heart. We have just concluded a roundtable, one of the most impressive that I've been involved in, with the CEOs who represent about 75% of all covered lives in America. These folks represent the insurance companies that cover 3/4 of the American people, and it covers them across Medicare Advantage, across Medicaid, across commercial insurance, about 260 million people in general, in total, covered by these plans. And there were more people being added while we were in the meeting. That's how much interest there is from industry in dealing with the problem that they don't like to have in their bailiwick either. These executives explain why they are signing this pre-authorization pledge to restore common sense to the process.
Or the pizza.
Now, we've spoken to these folks and others in industry about the desire for them to maybe adopt a different strategy, one that actually is discussed in the Bible when it says the meek shall inherit the earth. And I always grew up thinking meek meant weak, but that's not what meek means. Meek means you have a sharp sword, a sword that could do real damage to people around you, but you decide electively to sheathe that sword and put it away for a while so you can do good. So you can do important things, or once in a while we have to get together, even if we're competitors, and agree. And that's what these insurance companies and hospital systems have done.
Sir sucks
They've
a dick.
agreed to sheathe their swords to be meek for a while, to come up with a better solution to a problem that plagues us all. And this transition that's not happening, this teaching that's sort of spreading, is beginning to catch fire in part because this administration has pushed so hard on these issues. We're hearing very innovative ideas. For example, could we allow some physicians to be gold card physicians because they're so good at making the right care for the right patient that maybe they don't have to go through a pre-authorization? There's some systems that don't even do pre-authorizations because they have already evolved into having ways of giving feedback to doctors so they learn when they're ordering tests and medications that aren't the right for a solution to a particular problem, so they don't repeat those errors. At its best, that's what pre-authorization sought to do, but that's not what it's doing anymore. So for that reason, the pledge. And some of the highlights are in this
it's just a
chart
pledge?
to my right, so you can at least follow along. But I'll mention that the top 3 issues that we're focused on. The first is timely access for patients. This is a critical issue because imagine you're in a doctor's office and you've got a bad diagnosis and there's a procedure or a test or a treatment that you think is right for you, and you find out that you can't start that treatment for sometimes weeks, even longer. It's more frustrating than anything else in the process because at least that's something you do control. You don't control much else when you're in a physician's office with that kind of a crisis, and yet it's withheld. And these approvals with this new pledge will be streamlined. It will happen very quickly. Necessary care will be delivered when it's needed in the right way. So you get both quality and you get timing, which goes along with that quality. And you won't get that treatment after all the paperwork clears. You'll just get it because there won't be paperwork. We'll be streamlining it. Patients should not be waiting because bureaucratic hurdles are blocking their critical treatment. Second big issue is to make sure that we are saving the system with efficiency. I bring that up because one of the biggest challenges we have within CMS, which is, again, Medicare, Medicaid, the exchanges, is that it's an inefficient process by which we do things, by which we give feedback, by which we send bills and collect. The red tape creates massive problems. We want less red tape, and if we do that, we can cut tens of billions of dollars of administrative waste. It's a lot of money that we throw at solutions that we don't work for us because we haven't built a digital infrastructure that's being addressed. With less red tape, that means more resources for patients, which is part of the reason these major companies got together, working together with Health and Human Services Agency to try to take a shot at the pre-auth process. We'll standardize, we'll harmonize, we'll get folks talking together, and the pre-authorization process, if it's done correctly, for ongoing procedures, for medications and the like, will create a seamless relationship between patients and providers, which is the whole goal in the first place, to allow them to free them to get across the finish line with their treatment plans, but to do it together with the insurance entities, the folks that are responsible for these different plans. And thirdly, transparency. And
it'll be sold with a free bottle of my newest supplement.
You now have the responsibility of dealing with it. We have common data
Pop-Tarts
standards.
with icing.
They're going to be adopted, and public dashboards.
The cats are trying to chase my birds here, so I've got a different lighting situation. Sorry.
Really happening. Because although we're hopeful, this is hard to do. And folks sometimes change their mind. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to trust but verify by having this transparency and accountability. All the stakeholders, the payers, the providers, the patients are going to see real-world performance. And by having that, they'll be able to assess whether this is clearly and consistently accomplished. Now, the pledge is not a mandate. This is not a bill or rule.
A KISS is not a contract.
Legislated. This is an opportunity for industry to show itself. Participation is voluntary. But by the fact that 3/4 of the patients in the country are already covered by participants in this pledge, it's a good start. And the response has been overwhelming, gratifyingly so.
Does a pledge mean they change their standard operating procedure?
As a steward, as a cheerleader. It was led by wonderful people who realized that we had an opportunity to do good, and that government, you don't have to always do it yourself. You can use the power to convene to pull together powerful interests. We have discussed extensively with individual physicians this idea. We've talked about it with health systems, with associations, with congressional partners. You'll hear from some of them in a moment. CMS is going to publish a full list of participating plans later this summer with some details of how it's going to roll out. And the initial commitments, like, for example, code reductions, the number of procedures that would have to be subjugated to pre-authorization or similar limitations, the continuity of care protections to make sure that you don't lose coverage when you switch between plans.
Somebody had their little pink pills this morning.
It's a fast
Am I
timeline,
right?
but in 7 months, we'll be able to give to the American people something they've been asking for, something that's been in the news recently because of the difficulty of obtaining it, which is the freedom from prior authorization when used incorrectly. So what's the blueprint for broader reform? Because we see this as the first of a much larger opportunity. This is getting everyone together on a pain point, a thorn in everyone's side, a pebble in our shoes, but the real opportunity
What's going on with his throat?
The first and very
Does anybody see that? Am I the only one? Is that a shadow?
It's not just about prior authorization.
There's something wrong with his throat.
Administrative simplification, to take the paperwork out of the process.
Like his,
and put patients
whatever this part is like
there's going to be a
discolored or something. Did somebody try to choke him out there?
Is a fast healthcare interoperability resource, so it's standardized.
I mean, I imagine there's billing codes, right?
Across systems.
Yeah, but this is what I'm asking. A pledge is not a procedure.
By 2027, we're going to have to work with providers, with doctors, many of whom, maybe half potentially, aren't using these kinds of technologies routinely in their office practice when they interact with insurers. We want that to change. We don't have a slowing down of the process. There shouldn't be paper. There shouldn't be faxes. There shouldn't be letters being sent. They should all be done digitally and automatically. And 90-day continuity should exist for authorizations when patients switch insurers. So you never fall through the cracks. Again, another pain point that many patient groups are bringing to us. The future is a system where carriers compete on value and outcomes. They compete on value and outcomes. They do not compete on issues like confusing portals and who can obfuscate the most and delay the process.
Well, amen to that,
That's not how they want to win, and that's not how they're going to win. We want to recognize the insurers who've done this, and they have stepped up. They're sharing data in ways that we are very honored by. They are willing to be meek in the process in in ways that we had not even initially
Oh, he was
anticipated.
talking about the
They're accepting
corporations
performance
being
targets.
meek?
They're offering commitments that go just
Oh, my
beyond
God.
the profits that are involved in this process, although we're hopeful that we'll actually save some money through this process because we won't be wasting the amount of money that is often spent unnecessarily when documents are sent back and forth, taking up precious time without changing the overall results. This shows what's possible when policymakers get together with payers and they can join forces to make the care
Right, it's
faster,
just like,
simpler,
it's off to the
and more
side. That's
affordable
all
for
I'm
the
saying,
American
okay?
people. So what comes next?
He's
today's
very
the beginning,
nervous. Everybody's
and it really is
nervous
just
today.
that. As this process rolls out, we're going to be seeing exactly how the
I don't even know what
engineering
that means,
occurs.
but it sounds
CMS is
good.
engaging with providers to find out how they can refine documentation procedures, because that's often where the
I feel
entire
like I
process
need to
gets
take
stuck.
a breath
The
or
records
take a
never
drink
get out
for
of the
him.
doctor's office in a timely fashion. We have patient advocates identifying low-value codes. There's some things we should not be pre-authorizing anymore, and we should stop that, and the insurance industry agrees with that, by the way. The health IT innovators who are out there who want to help, there's an opportunity for them to extend real-time prior authorization. So literally, as the decision is being made that you as a patient need a test or a medication, the decision is
That would
at
be
the same
nice.
time made by the insurance
Obfuscate,
company that it's
obsticate
okay.
obstacles.
And this is going to allow us to next proceed into looking at ideas with pharmacy and behavioral health. So those opportunities and pre-authorization processes are accelerated. In closing,
Well,
I'm going to applaud
amen.
the insurance companies for taking a very thoughtful, brave first step. That stated, I know that we're going to have to keep watching what everyone's doing carefully. I want to be clear about that in reality.
Is
If
RFK Jr.
the
going to
insurance
talk?
industry
Because both of
cannot
them were on the
address needs
thumbnail.
of pre-authorization by themselves, there are government opportunities to get involved. They might not be as nimble, but they will be used if we're forced to use them. I think
Oh, what's going
all the
on
folks to come
here?
to the table, and I'm optimistic with that we're going to be successful.
What's going
And,
on?
There's a lot to be said about this, but I want to bring some
What
folks
in the
who
fresh
have
hell
been
of
very actively
privatization is
engaged
going
this
on in
process.
here?
And
What are we setting
I'm gonna
up
start
for?
with a gentleman who's known to many of you because he's been on television in front of tens of millions of people playing an active role as a doctor, although he's
Who?
not a doctor in real life. But he does have a
Wait,
health problem.
what are we doing?
That has, and it's chronic. So it's going to force him to deal with the pre-authorization system. And this is an exact kind of situation where you
What are
don't
we
want
doing?
pre-auth hindering and limiting your ability to get
Are we
the
doing a
care
cold
you
read
need.
or something? What's
Some of
happening
you
right now?
You know him as Dr. McSteamy from Grey's Anatomy.
Are you kidding me right now?
Secretary Kennedy and I call him friend Eric Dane. Eric, come on up.
What? What?
And I'll have Eric share his diagnosis when he comes up. He's been very
Excuse-
public
what's
about
happening
it, which is a
right
great
now?
thing to do. But I also appreciate you making time in your schedule to address America about pre-authorization. Bless you.
What is happening right now?
I was told not to take his talking points, and I did.
Don't take my words. Thank you, Mr. Administrator Oz. I'm Eric Dane. Some of you may know me from TV shows such as Grey's Anatomy, which I play a doctor, but I am here today to speak briefly as a patient battling ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. When that diagnosis hits and you find out that you're sick, your life becomes filled with great uncertainty.
Bye, butter.
And the worst thing that we can do is add even more uncertainty
Thanks for the link
patients
on
and
the
their
pledge.
loved ones
Okay.
with unnecessary prior authorization. Anything we can do to give patients more certainty with fewer delays is a worthwhile endeavor. I've been fortunate and have the means to access great care. I'm lucky. Not everyone is in the same position. I am acutely aware of that. I applaud the insurance industry coming together with officials from CMS and HHS to take these steps in the right direction. Today is about all those who need more certainty, faster answers, and more hope for recovery. Thank you.
You can't capture the pain of the pre-authorization process without hearing from patients, so I appreciate Eric making the time. Physicians live through this continually, and I have two physicians who've volunteered to come over from Capitol Hill despite all
Not
the
yet,
crazy busyness
Harry.
over there and spend some time with us. Senator Marshall is a good friend. We spent a lot of time brainstorming ways to improve healthcare in America, and pre-authorization, if you get two doctors together, always comes up. Senator Marshall.
Really? Because I think doctors look on it as another way to get you in their office.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say a special thanks to Secretary Kennedy
Maybe
and
I
CMS
just have a
Administrator
different
Dr. Oz, and
perspective.
especially President Trump for inviting me to participate in
Especially
today's
President
event to address
Trump.
the number one
Trump.
bureaucratic nightmare facing doctors and patients, prior authorization. Now, long before I ran for Congress, I practiced
just wanna know what's
OBGYN
the
for
real
some 25 years, and I vividly remember a patient I once had
What's the
scheduled for an
catch?
infertility surgery. She'd taken time off work and arranged help at home, only to be told the morning of her procedure that her insurance company had added another step to the prior authorization process, abruptly canceling her surgery. Now, whether you need a hip replacement or a heart catheterization, many patients feel their critical care has been delayed by an opaque and burdensome prior authorization process. It's something I hear about all the time back home. Moreover, physicians and nurses complain the process has become increasingly onerous because of constantly changing requirements, often demanding more time to navigate the red tape than to complete the pre-surgery medical workup. Today, by having all the players in the room, we hope to see a common-sense solution to streamline and improve our healthcare system. We must prioritize patients' health over corporate profits and arbitrary cost-cutting measures. For nearly my entire time in Congress, I fought to reform the prior authorization process in Medicare Advantage. Today's event moves us closer to that goal, ensuring patients receive timely, life-saving, and health-restoring care. Again, I just look forward to working with Secretary Kennedy, Administrator Oz, and insurers together to overhaul this process. I'm going to continue to champion this fight in Congress and support their efforts. And again, I'm just proud to stand alongside President Trump's A-team as we work to make health care more patient and provider-friendly for doctors, nurses, and patients alike. Next, I'm just proud to introduce one of my very good friends, a fellow physician, a urologist still practicing medicine, Congressman from the great state of North Carolina, Dr. Greg Murphy. Greg?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, Dr. Oz. How did we end up here? I think that's a real question. I can
Is
say
this
now
a circle
after
jerk?
32
A health
years
plan
in clinical
circle jerk
practice,
here?
which I still see patients.
Are we going to
How
do
did we
this?
get here? I think that's
Do you
really
guys want to
critical.
go back to Pam Bondi and then we'll
I
read
think
about
that,
what's actually
I think
happening?
we all know that the maternal-fetal bond is probably the strongest human relation there is. I think the second one is the doctor-patient relationship. We saw a lot of that tinkered with during the pandemic.
On the fetal bond,
but I still
I'm
see
going to
patients because I love it.
Turn you off, you big fucking moron. Let's watch.
Reduction you're proposing.
So, I am a career prosecutor, and I believe in keeping America safe, making America safe. First, what we're doing is ATF is going to be brought over with DEA. Everyone knows, everyone sitting up here, guns and drugs go together. They go together. We're going to make it more efficient. What I will tell you will not be happening is ATF agents will not be knocking on the doors of legal gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns. They're going to be out on the streets. If I can finish, they're going to be out on the streets.
I have three
No.
minutes.
You asked me a question.
I did. And
You asked me a question.
And you
I'm
haven't
gonna
answered
answer
my
it.
question.
So they're going to be out on the streets working.
You haven't
hand in
answered
hand
my
with
question.
DEA
You
to
haven't
violate.
answered. Mr. Chairman, I'd like an answer to my question. And the question is not being answered. How many ATF law enforcement officers and industry operations investigators do you anticipate will be lost to attrition as a result of the funding reduction you are proposing? You are proposing a 26% cut to ATF for fiscal year 2026, as well as a 4.4% cut to DEA. So you're going to merge the two agencies together, and then you're going to shortchange their resources, so neither one of them will be able to do the job that they have been designed to do. You've got a 34% cut to the high-intensity drug trafficking areas program, no dedicated money at all for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. So, my view, it's fair to say that the Trump administration proposal shortchanges federal efforts to stop illegal gun trafficking and federal efforts to stop the flow of dangerous illegal drugs like fentanyl.
As I was attempting to answer your question very calmly, unlike you.
Excuse me. That's engaging in personal attacks on a member.
Madam Attorney General, answer yes or no. Tell me what the numbers are. I don't want to hear all of your filibuster about this. Go ahead. Please, tell us the numbers.
So we are reorganizing. ATF agents want to be out on the street.
Okay,
working
let me answer the
DEA
question
agents.
for you. I'm going to answer it for you. Page, Mr. Chairman, you give me a certain amount of time, and I have a high respect for you, but I don't have to listen, nor do my colleagues have to listen to a filibuster when it's a simple question. But I have an answer to your question. It's page 146 of the department's fiscal year 2026 budget, and the performance summary explicitly says, and let me quote, ATF will eliminate 541 industry operation investigators, reducing ATF's capacity to regulate the firearms and explosive industries by approximately 40% in fiscal year 2026. ATF will perform fewer regulatory inspections. And the department summary goes on to say, and let me quote, ATF anticipates a reduction of approximately 284 support personnel and 186 agents based on historical attrition patterns. And these personnel cuts will impact ATF across various
But they won't be refilled. That's
the key. If the capacity
key.
to regulate firearms industry is reduced by 40%, if you are losing 186 ATF law enforcement agents, on top of that, it is clear the direction you are headed with this budget, and that's what it is, isn't it? The proposal will weaken our ability to stop gun trafficking, and it will greatly reduce ATF support for state and local law enforcement that helps them prevent and solve violent crimes. It's a bad proposal.
Do you want to hear my answer in 3 seconds? You mentioned regulatory functions. We will not be having ATF agents go to the doors of gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns, period.
What?
They will be
Why
out on the
not?
streets with DEA, guns and
how many are gone?
They will.
I think that's lacking a huge amount of context, but
we
whatever.
are not firing agents. They will be working.
How many
with
have taken
DEA.
attrition?
Can I tell you that they all want to be on the streets? They
What are we
want to be
talking
doing their
about?
jobs. They want to be
But you're getting them
seizing
off the
guns.
streets.
They want
getting
to.
them
We're
off the
putting
streets.
them on the streets. They want to be working with DEA.
You
What
are
are we
getting them
talking
off the
about?
streets. There is no
Efficient?
clear. And Mr.
We will
Chairman,
be
I yield back my
efficient.
time. I yield back my time. Let's get some answers here.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi,
Unfortunately,
for being here
Mr.
today.
Clyde,
You are, in my mind, a breath of fresh air to our Department of Justice.
you are so beautiful.
So thank you for your dedication to the Constitution and for
me.
equal justice under the law.
Can't you see?
Congressman Gonzalez raised with you with respect to the new environment that we're in now with the essentially a war with Iran. A few weeks ago, your FBI director sat in the same chair and said that he thought in the budget that's been proposed, they're about $11.2 billion short. He wanted an additional 1,100 positions that were lost to attrition and 1,300 he wanted to have filled. That's before the scenario with Iran.
Oh,
Now,
summer peaches.
I know you submitted the
Oh,
budget
yum, yum, yum.
already and you want to stick with it, but please take another look. This is a new environment. I think the points that the congressman raised are very valid with respect to the issue of sleeper cells and threats domestically here. Taking FBI agents off the street now is there isn't a worse possible time you could do it.
Well,
So
and a lot of them
please
are in Los
reconsider
Angeles.
that,
I don't know about your town.
and move in a different direction on that because we need more of them on the street, not fewer. Ms. DeLauro
Not
was
my
raising
street.
issues with
Not our
respect to
streets.
your budget.
Not your
the IOI cuts and the 86 agents that are going to
But
be
yeah,
cut too.
his point is
and the concern I have on that front, I know you're saying they want to be on the street, but they're ATF agents that do things that aren't on the street. So like, for example, the Nibbin work where they match the cartridges to the guns is critical. And I'm very concerned that some of the cuts you're going to make are going to impact that. And the Nibbin piece is critical for state and local law enforcement. It's like you used to be, because a lot of them don't have the resources to track
Lady
it down.
in Purple, yeah.
And the information that they can get,
Rosa DeLauro
they
from
can turn it around in
Connecticut.
48 hours. So the man who attempted to assassinate now President Trump, the connection that was made was through this apparatus, this approach. The same thing with the Minnesota assassin. So that's an area where we can't afford to have those kind of cuts, I don't think, at this time. And the performance of fewer regulatory inspections. I had gun dealers in my district who needed those inspections to take place. And important findings have been made, certainly with respect to tracking crime guns and cracking down on gun dealers who are working illicitly. I'm not saying they all do. I mean, many of them operate in the right way, but the only way to track it down is through inspections that have to be aggressive. And by the way, even under the current regime or the previous regime, I think some of them didn't get inspections for maybe every 10 years or so. So it wasn't like it's a constant
not an
harassment
issue.
piece. But I've got some folks here in the corner of the hearing room who are from my district. Moms Demand Action, DMV Mothers Like Me, Women's Missionary Society. I met with them a few weeks ago, and the concern was the issue of gun violence on our streets and the desire to make sure that the federal presence continues to push hard to make sure we close those cases. You're reducing resources, you're reducing the number of agents, as Mr. Patel said. That's moving in the opposite direction. What response would you give to them with respect to the steps that you're taking to make sure not only that we stay safe, but we get even safer and do even more to get violent offenders off the street and get the guns off the street before the violent offenders get them?
So first, Congressman Ivey, you're a former prosecutor, and I'm smiling because I could see that in some of your questions. Thank you for those questions. I'm going to try to answer them all in order of how you ask them. You ask about the FBI, our budget, and Director Patel clarified that in front of the Senate, I think, and our budget includes $10.1 billion, 12,926 agents for the FBI.
I think clarification would be gentle. It was a complete flip-flop on what he said when he was here.
So
he was asked 3 times by Ms. DeLauro just to make sure that he was right about what he had said when he was testifying.
They prioritize realignment of personnel to the field to carry out national security, which you just talked about, intelligence, criminal law enforcement, and criminal justice missions.
Can I do this?
Can I just keep? I only have 34 seconds to answer
I've got
and
three
I really
quick
want to
questions
answer.
for you, and I'd love
You're
to get,
asking 3 questions and you haven't let me answer one.
I'd love to get your
have
answers
any
in writing.
time.
Quick questions.
Nibbin.
When you were the Attorney General in Florida,
Chairman, can I answer the
offered,
question?
What is wrong with her?
You offered, after the Parkland shooting, I
No,
believe
the gentleman
this is
will
my
not
time,
yield.
under the rules, and I had.
What?
Can we stop the clock?
Stop the clock at a different.
What?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Chairman,
fuck off, Mr. Chairman.
What I just said was, if you could submit your answers in writing, that would be great. I don't think I've made any kind of statement that's been accusatory with respect to her or her professional reputation. There's been no attack on her. These were just questions that were asked. I'm seeking the answers in writing, which would be great. But I have a couple others that I'd like to ask too, and we'll do them on. No, it hasn't. You cut me off when there were 30 seconds left. Yeah. So, well, that's true too. A couple of you all went over like a minute and a half.
Over almost 2 minutes.
I just would like my 30 seconds back. And then if she can submit answers in writing, that'll be fine. But, but I want to get these questions in.
But members get to use their time
while she's
because
here.
we elected them.
I want to ask the questions and she can submit the answers. This is my 5 minutes. I get to do it the way I want to do it. Under the committee rules and under the House rules. These are my 5 minutes. And as I said, I have not been disrespectful to this witness. I have not. Or okay. When you were the Attorney General in Florida, after the Parkland shooting, my understanding is that you moved to ban gun sales to people under 21. Is that a position that you would take now as the Attorney General? I have a bill, H.R. 2368, which does something like that. I would be interested in if you'd be willing to co-sponsor or support that bill. You also moved to enact red flag laws, allowing a judge temporarily to confiscate weapons when he or she viewed that the person was at risk of hurting himself or someone else. Is that a position you would continue to support now? And the last one is ghost guns. Ghost guns, I don't think you took a position on it back when you were the AG in Florida, but we've had 2 bills come through here in the Congress, all Democratic co-sponsors. I think there's no argument that ghost guns have any appropriate use on the street. They only help criminals avoid prosecution. Would you support a legislative ban on ghost guns? And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Ming, for having this hearing today. I'd also like to thank the subcommittee staff for their hard work. Attorney General Bondi, thank you for being here today. I commend you for your efforts to prioritize President Trump's America First
I don't know what
agenda
happened,
and
but I
commitment
think
to making America
moving
safe
ahead in time.
As you know, I represent Alabama's 5th Congressional
like a
District, which includes
hyperspeed.
Huntsville
You know, if
and
you'll
Redstone
just bear
Arsenal.
with me,
I'm especially
there's a little bit
supportive
of a
the FBI
hyperspeed
Director
thing
Patel's
happening, and there.
Thank you, Attorney General
we
Bondi,
went.
for
We came back
appearing
through
before us today. Madam Attorney General, I serve in addition to the Appropriations Committee as a ranking member of the Committee on House Administration.
Is this French
I sent
Hill? No, it's
you a
Senate.
letter
No,
last
that
week
is
along
House.
with my Republican
This is
counterpart,
French
Chairman
Hill.
Brian
His
Stile,
name is
requesting
French
an increase
Hill.
in
I've never even heard
federal
of him.
prosecutorial
From Arkansas?
resources to address threats against members of Congress, particularly in light of what happened last week in Minnesota, that tragedy. In 2024, the U.S. Capitol Police identified and received nearly 9,500 concerning statements or threats against members. Federal prosecutors have only secured 8 convictions so far, and the heightened threat environment demands an all-hands-on-deck approach. Will you commit to assigning an assistant U.S. attorney or a special assistant U.S. attorney in each of the
Puppy
94
is
federal districts,
screaming
to at least
for a
on a
walk,
part-time
so I'm
basis
going to have
investigate
to
and prosecute
take a
threats
minute
against
to
members of
walk him.
Congress?
Hold on, I'll be back.
So thank you for bringing that up, and I take that very seriously. Not only what happened in Minnesota was horrible. I've spoken to Keith Ellison. I've spoken to Amy Klobuchar about that. It's horrible. We are involved in that. The FBI was involved. Our U.S. attorneys are involved. Many of these are district to district. So the way we're doing that is, I will tell you, my National Security Division is involved in all of those and assisting in those. We meet every single morning and we discuss that. But many of those, Minnesota, will be handled in the state in which it happened. Another one is Governor. I'm sorry if I can keep going. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't mean
Quickly,
to.
though.
I filibuster. Governor Shapiro and what happened in Pennsylvania with Governor Shapiro. I've spoken to Governor Shapiro. We are working hand in hand, our U.S. attorney with the district attorney there, hand in hand, just like in Minnesota. I made sure our U.S. attorney and our district attorneys there were working hand in hand. Political party doesn't matter when something like this happens. And I also want to make sure all members of Congress are safe as well.
Okay, and I would reiterate, Chairman Stile and I think Chairman Stile and I agree that at least a part-time in each of the 94 districts would be appropriate. Let me change topics for just a moment.
I'm really quick on that. Yes, we're doing that through our National Security Division, so I think that's already in the works, and I would be glad to meet with you in a secure facility to talk about that.
Is she scared or something?
Thank you. Continuing, in addition to my role here, the committee that I serve on as an authorizer oversees Capitol security as well as federal elections, so I'm closely following the aftermath of January 6th. Recently, several defendants who received presidential pardons related to that day are now arguing in court that the pardon covers crimes like, for instance, illegal firearm possession discovered in a search of an individual's home in California months after January 6th. What's your position on whether the pardons cover these separate offenses?
The pardon power rests with the president, not the Department of Justice, and some of that is pending litigation, and I cannot discuss pending litigation.
Oh, I just cannot.
Well, I'm not
discuss
asking you
pending
about who
litigation.
has the right to a pardon. I think as the Department of Justice in February wrote, the pardon is an act of grace which removes the punishment from a crime a person has committed. It further said, in its effect, the granting of a pardon is in no sense the overturning of a judgment of conviction. It is an executive action that mitigates or sets aside punishment. So as the chief law enforcement officer, what's your opinion? Not the president's power of whether he can offer a pardon. That's pretty clear in the Constitution. But for crimes committed unrelated to January 6th, would you suggest that the pardons would cover activities or crimes potentially committed outside of that by the same person?
Well, I don't know if you're referring to Joe Biden pardoning his son after he said he would not pardon Hunter Biden, or the
No, I actually
commutation
referred
of
to
all
January
the
6th. I'm sorry.
all the sentences that the people that were on death row. I've met with those families,
No,
and all of those sentences were commuted. I'm not going to comment on pardons on either side of the aisle.
So, well,
wow, that's kind of pissy.
I'm not asking about either side. I'm asking, you're the chief law enforcement officer in the United States.
Oh, yes,
you have
Teresa.
a
Ed Martin.
responsibility directly, but you sworn oath to the Constitution, not the president. Want to know what your views are on the extent to which pardons cover potential crimes committed by individuals who have been pardoned but unrelated to January 6th.
Do you mean the ones that were done by the auto pen? I'm not going to discuss anything that
Mr. Chairman,
or not be
I
pending litigation.
respectfully,
Bitter Nazi Barbie.
You know, Ms. DeLauro accused you of filibustering. I think that's the height of filibustering. This is a serious, serious topic. And for you to suggest that you don't have an opinion or to divert to other things that have nothing to do with January 6 pardons, I think is frankly demeaning to your responsibilities and your job. With that, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General, thank you for being here today. You know, when I'm home in my district talking to my constituents,
thank you,
they are
because I always
concerned
wondered about that. He didn't
their
have enough
safety.
time
They are
to sign
concerned
them.
about the safety of their communities, the safety of their neighborhoods. And as we have
And he said he was
spoken
gonna look at
many
each one,
times
but he
under your
didn't look at each
leadership,
one
the
'cause he
DOJ
just
has
did them all
taken
at
decisive
once.
steps to restore the rule of law, to tackle violent crime, and to hold both foreign and domestic bad actors accountable. I read your opening statement.
I hope there's a treason
I
charge
just wanted to
somewhere
give you an
coming down the
opportunity
line.
to go back again and talk about, in light of 4 years of open borders, the drugs
Oh my
that
God,
are coming
hey,
in, the sex
get ready for a
trafficking, the human
time
trafficking, the
warp
gangs that have moved in, the terrorism
Let's
that has
do the
infiltrated the United States, the
time
sleeper cells
warp
that may or may not be present in this country.
And I can't discuss that right now.
I think the answer should be no, but I'll leave that to the judges and to this committee to decide. Thank you.
Whoopee.
Now the gentleman has expired.
Whoopee.
Mrs. Dean.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Thank you, Ranking Member.
Come on,
Thank you,
Madeline.
and welcome,
Cut her.
Attorney General Bondi.
Cut her.
I just wonder, sincerely wonder, do you hear how hollow your last words sound in light of the pardon of all of the January 6th people?
Hi, Peace Love. I
Day
didn't say
one
when you
of
came
this
in.
administration. I believe you're sincere.
Oh,
you
we
want to
should.
protect law
Definitely.
enforcement.
My God, meowing
But
star.
your
I don't know why we
principal,
never
the
have.
president, pardoned every single one on January 6th. It rings hollow when you say
Madeline
these
is going to
words,
bring up that point
if
you guys
spit on a
wanted her to
police
bring up.
officer, we're going to go after you. Talk to my friends who are Capitol Police officers who were here, 5 of whom are no longer here. They are dead. And this administration, and I guess I want to ask you, did you have any advice for the president when he came forward with the blanket pardon on January
windy here.
20th? What advice did you offer the president?
I am never going to talk about conversations,
I am
advice
Were you asked
in
for-
any way.
were you asked
I'm
for
never
advice?
going to talk about
Talk about
discussions
what I
I've
talk
had or
about.
have not had.
You'll
But I can
remember-
answer with the President of the United
Yes or no?
States.
I love
Did you-
him so.
Did you give him any advice, yes or no?
I am not going to discuss any conversations
That's a
that
no.
I have had
You'll
with
never know.
You
And
just put
your
words in
own
my
word,
mouth. I
but-
am not going to
No, I'm
discuss.
going to reveal your own words.
I am
Just a
not
moment.
going
Please
to
stop.
discuss
Please stop. This is
conversations
my
that
time.
I've had with the President of the
Oh, my
United States.
Attorney
You asked
General,
me a question.
I would like to
Just
reclaim
and
the
you
last
asked
20
me to
seconds.
answer.
I have asked to reclaim my time. Please put 20 seconds back on the clock.
You have an extra 30.
If the general,
She answered and then answered it again and answered it again with a non-answer. I ask for your consideration
if the
of putting time
gentlelady
on.
will let the witness answer the question.
Wow. Why don't you
We
just
will-
go
She
down
She
there
answered it by
and
saying no.
get on your
Okay.
knees there, Mr.
The 3
Bill.
hallmarks of this administration are incompetence, corruption, and cruelty. I'm going to focus today on corruption. And in my mind, there are 2 types of corruption: personal, and then the other I'm going to call public, governmental. Attorney General, have you ever been registered as an agent of a foreign principal under the Foreign Agents Registration Act?
I assume you're talking about when I represented the country of Qatar for a very short time.
The
Hold
answer is
on.
no,
Hold
excuse
on.
me.
No,
No, not
for
hold on.
anti-human trafficking for the World Cup. Anti-human
yeah, okay.
trafficking
Yes or
for the
no?
World Cup.
Attorney
you can't
General.
put words in my mouth.
No.
You want to talk about incompetence? You're the one that
Excuse
said Joe Biden on PBS was competent. You had to retract those words.
Mr.
So don't
Chairman.
talk to
Oh,
me.
that's
Don't
it.
insult me.
Someone go punch her in the
This
face,
is
please.
so discourteous. This is so outside the committee's guidelines. Taking a personal shot at me while swiping at Biden? Very strange and very unprofessional of you. The answer is yes or no, and the answer is yes. You were registered as a lobbyist for Qatar. Is that correct? Yes. Never mind. Don't answer.
Great.
Did you disclose that when you went
Yeah,
before
thank you, Jane.
the Senate for confirmation? Yes
We'll raise
or
bail
no?
money.
No, it was not in your documents. The answer is no. President Trump.
This was discussed at my confirmation hearings in detail.
It was it was discussed, but you failed to bring up the conflict that you had. President Trump recently announced he'd accept that $400 million Qatar airplane because it was just prettier than the one he was flying around in. Is it true that you gave advice that this was legally permissible? Yes or no?
I will not discuss any advice that my Office of Legal Counsel gives to the
When he
President of
takes
the
me
United
in
States
his
on any matter.
When you
world is
spoke
bright.
before the Senate, you said you would ask for ethical advice. Did you recuse yourself from that issue?
And talking about unprofessional, you say the
Oh,
President wanted a jet because it's pretty?
Excuse
Come
me.
on, this is a Senate, this is a
He said it
congressional
himself.
hearing.
He said it himself. Let me go to April the 2nd. You're a part of this, the president has dabbled in meme coin.
Good question, Jay Rance.
He had the DOJ, disband the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. His son recently launched the Executive Branch Club, a private club with $500,000 memberships here in D.C. Any of this seem like it might be a problem, might be profiteering from the office, and maybe you and your ethics team might be concerned about these conflicts of interest, your own and the president and his family? Yes or no? Any concerns?
What I would be concerned about in Pennsylvania are all the child sex cases that we've prosecuted, all the CSAM cases that we've prosecuted.
Did you hear
in
my question?
Pennsylvania.
I
That's
asked
what
the
I would
witness
be
to
concerned
actually
about.
answer questions that are asked.
Congresswoman Dean.
Chairman?
Please let the
Okay,
witness answer
I
the
do have to
question.
sneak away
She
and
didn't.
take care of the dog again because
And I would like
gave
to
us a
ask
false
you one
alarm.
more
All right,
question.
I'll BRB.
You're not just complicit in this, you're actively helping and profiting. Isn't it true that on April the 2nd, the same day that Trump announced his chaotic tariff regime that plummeted the stock market, you sold more than $1 million worth of your shares in Trump Media stock? Trump Media stock fell 13% in the following days. Seems you avoided that loss. Well done. I yield back.
May I answer that, Chairman? I complied with my ethics, and yeah, I would take a class in financial literacy if you think I profited from that, because I lost a tremendous amount of money. Congresswoman, and also on page 25 of my SJ2, it lists my involvement with Qatar for anti-human trafficking for the World Cup. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding the hearing. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here. You just mentioned this previously, and obviously, as you're aware, about the recently uncovered information about the FBI's egregious, politically motivated anti-Catholic field memo, which was disseminated to more than 1,000 employees. The Biden administration claimed that this memo only was circulated at the Richmond field office. It's now clear that this memo went much beyond just that one field office. This was a memo that suggested that Catholics, based on their theological beliefs and practices, were radical and that their traditional parishes were vectors for extremism. The FBI went so far as to infiltrate and spy on Sunday masses. So, Attorney General Bondi, I'm grateful for your efforts to combat anti-Christian bias, including the task force you recently stood up. It's clear from both the original leaked memo and the additional documentation that has been released that extremist Southern Poverty Law Center was the basis for this anti-Catholic bigotry coming from the FBI. Will you commit to not use the Southern Poverty Law Center to determine who is a hate group?
Committed to working with you on that, Congressman, and thank you for bringing that up about, that was horrible what happened to Catholics and that memo. It didn't just happen to Catholics, of course. It happened to parents at school boards. It happened to people who were peacefully protesting at abortion clinics. That's the end of weaponization under the Trump administration.
Well, thank you for that, Attorney General Bondi. What additional resources can this committee provide to further execute your efforts to eradicate anti-Christian bias in the federal government?
Yeah, we're committed to working with you. Our Civil Rights Division, led by Harmeet Dillon, is doing an incredible job working on those issues and many more. Our Civil Rights Division, I met with her this morning. I talk to them almost daily, and they are working to protect people of all religions. And, especially now, I'm actually surprised that hasn't come up yet this morning, but in light of everything happening with Israel, all of the anti-Semitic things that have been happening around our country. I went to the crime scene here in D.C. of 2 young people who were leaving a Jewish museum and were gunned down simply because of their religion. It was horrific. It was horrific. And then in Boulder, Colorado, when a Holocaust survivor was firebombed, lit on fire because she was Jewish. And so it's not only Catholics, it's every religion. And even mosques that were slow-walked under the Biden administration and not allowed to open. We will protect every religion in this country.
Well, thank you for your commitment to that, and I truly appreciate it, and I think everybody of faith in the United States appreciates that. And I just want to switch gears real quick to just another topic. In 2022, the D.C. Metropolitan Police recovered the remains of 5 unborn children, apparently from a D.C. abortion mill, which appeared to be the victims, these 5 remains that were found, victims of a brutal partial birth abortions. As you know, Congress passed a bipartisan law outlawing this gruesome practice in the early 2000s. Public reporting suggests that President Biden's DOJ directed the D.C. chief medical examiner to destroy the remains of the children without performing an autopsy, which the CME appears not to have done yet. General Bondi, will you commit to working with me and this committee to conduct a full and fair investigation into the deaths of these children to ensure justice is served for the DC-5?
Yeah, and Congressman, that is a ongoing investigation and pending, so I cannot discuss that in this forum. But on a collateral matter, the woman who retrieved those 5 fetuses was convicted, and she was pardoned by President Trump. And they were basically unborn babies, is what is alleged in the. But I can't discuss it any further.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi. I yield back.
Mr. Mervin.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Attorney General, thank you for joining us today. Our law enforcement officers, first responders, and local safety agencies are the backbone of our communities. In Northwest Indiana, I've worked hard to bring critical federal grant dollars home, funds that directly support the brave men and women who protect us every day. Unfortunately, funding for 2025 has been rescinded, weakening our public safety framework and making our neighborhoods less safe. I firsthand have a positive impact in securing dollars and investments for Gary, Indiana, East Chicago, Lake County, and Michigan City that were force multipliers that were technology such as license plate readers and the COPS grant. I'm asking you today, what can we do to ensure that those funds are going to continue to flow to my district? And in light of the HIDA. I'm in Northwest Indiana, Gary, Indiana. We are a HIDA district.
Who is this
where we
sexy
have the
beast?
Chicago traffic. That's vitally important to my district. I
Who
just
let-
need
who
commitments
let
that that
this
funding
smart,
will
sexy
continue to be
man in the
going forward
room?
and that our agencies will have that
Let me
support.
fix my hair.
Congressman, thank you for bringing that up.
Oh.
I'm well aware of the HIDA. I believe that's in Maryville. Is that correct?
You are correct.
And yes, that funding will remain where it is. We do not intend on touching that funding. We want to protect HIDA.
Very good. So in light of the escalation with Iran, part of our cybersecurity and our infrastructure when it comes to our electric grid, our banking systems,
I think.
that is a new threat. Does
I
this
love smart.
budget reflect increasing our cybersecurity protections? And how is the Department of Justice going to protect our infrastructure when it comes to bad actors such as Iran coming directly at our
She is
our
not
infrastructure
actually.
in a
She is
cyber
not
attack?
actually.
Yeah, we have
answered
$50
one
million
motherfucking
for
question, really.
cybersecurity, and also in the one big
With an
beautiful-
M, 50
with a-
million?
50 million, yeah,
Okay.
but also in the one big beautiful bill, it is also addressed to give us more resources. And it's not only
Can I
Iran,
ask-
as you well know, it's China as well. But
Right.
yes, I wholeheartedly agree with
In
you,
the
Congressman.
reconciliation, tomato, in the reconciliation bill, can you tell me what more resources are going to go towards cybersecurity? Because I was under the impression that was decreased.
I will get you those numbers.
Okay. Yes.
I want to do everything I can to help
Believe
you
it or
protect
not, it's just
cybersecurity,
me.
all of us in this country, not only again with Iran, but also with China and all of our foreign adversaries around the world.
Okay. And then just a question of curiosity that I have. Director Patel was here a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the emails that went to the FBI agents.
He's also
Meaning, please tell us what you did at the end of the week. Give us 5 reasons why you did. At first, Director Patel said that that didn't exist. Then he specifically said, well, that came from the Department of Justice to the FBI agents. And his words, I told them not to fulfill that obligation. How do you manage that if you give a directive to your director of FBI and he chooses not to fulfill that?
Aren't you
And
mad
where
at
did that
him?
information go? So when someone from the FBI, an agent, fulfilled that obligation of giving you the information of
And the
what they
little
were working
bracelet
on,
that's like
where
a,
did
either
that
like
data
he's a
go and how
surfer
is
or
it secured?
something. I'm having
Yeah,
a
and
moment.
Congressman, I'd be happy to see who answered that, but I have asked.
He's happily married and probably
when I
much
learned
too
about
young
it,
for
I
me.
asked that it be withdrawn, and it was.
So there's
that
all kinds
email.
of things, reasons
When
this
you
will never
learned
happen.
about
It's a crush,
the
though,
email
you know.
going to the
I get to have a
FBI
crush.
agents, you asked them to withdraw it. Who did you ask to have it withdrawn?
My entire office, and it was.
So it is unknown who sent that email?
Well, it came from my office.
Wait, what?
But when I learned it went to the FBI, we asked that it be withdrawn.
Wait, what?
Where is the gap of my understanding? If it came from your office, you're telling me you didn't send it?
I didn't realize it went to the FBI. That email went out.
So-
and the
Crispy.
purpose of that email was to make sure, just so you know, it was to make sure that these people were sitting at their desk and working and alive, that there were people actually
Okay, and
responding.
I
It
agree.
could have been, I got
Wait,
up and got a
what?
cup of coffee.
Sure.
That
So
was
without
the
going into
purpose.
that,
You wouldn't have fired him for
the
that?
people that
What
did
is it?
answer
What
it,
are you even doing?
where did that data go?
I will find out and I will get you that information.
And I
Oh,
only
she's
ask
they're
as a
talking about
national
that.
security issue as
Absolutely.
they are working on sensitive issues. And I thank you for joining us, and I yield back my time.
Thank you.
We hope we see you again, sir.
Gentleman, he is back.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
That concludes today's hearing.
Oh,
I want to
just
thank
in
our
time
witness,
for.
Attorney General Bundy, for being here today.
Oh, shut up. Fucking simp. You fucking fascist simp. Somebody check his hard drive. I'm not kidding. No, I am kidding. Oh my Lord in heaven. Oh my Lord in heaven. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. Oh, hell of a time to be an apatheist. 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 I don't think anyone realizes that Dump is completely falling for the King Cyrus crap and is believing that he's chosen by God. I don't even think he thinks it through that far, Oren. I feel like he's like, I don't want to go to prison. He wakes up in the morning and says, how do I stay out of prison today? Because, I mean, I'm just going to say it again. Nobody ever questions him, like, from the donor class. Do you see any of the donor class, like the Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen? Mark Andreessen's just a simp, but he's got money. He's a very rich simp. But do you see, I don't see any of these guys, David Sachs, any of these guys. They're not saying shit, fuck, damn about this, right? Yeah, he certainly doesn't know biblical history. But I think Dump wakes up in the morning and goes, how do I stay out of jail today? How do I not get assassinated today? And I don't mean assassinated by some rando. I mean assassinated by his friends and allies. Because remember Khashoggi, and Putin likes to poison people. It's been proven. So I think that's what he thinks of every day. And he goes as far as he wants to, and then Stephen Miller gets to have his yayas out through all of the terrible policies. Russ Vought gets to live out his best dreams of control. Finally, somebody listens to me. Because Mrs. Vought hasn't listened to him in 50 years. And, so I think this is a bunch of really, some clowns who are smarter than others getting to live their best fever dreams because the donor class loves the destruction, the chaos, while they build network cities in different parts of America and start to use the data that Elmo walked away with to rebuild America in their vision of whatever it is that their vision is. So if I don't hear the donor class saying anything, even good or bad, then that's a little that's more troubling to me than if they would say something. And his dementia, all of this, definitely. Yeah, he definitely would. He does. Okay, so this is a good point, Meowing Star, and it's something I've brought up over the years. Having watched like the John Eastman disbarment hearings, having watched the Jeffrey Clark disbarment hearings, having watched some of the fake electors, scheme in Michigan and beyond, way back when we were meting out justice in some way, shape, or form. Remember those days? I remember them. Just like what we discovered when we heard in Tina Peters' trial, when they talk about this, they have been living, especially since 2016, in a very deep echo chamber of right-wing media, some funded by Russians, others funded by others, and then others just fucking homegrown morons, right? So what I perceive watching right-wing media as much as I do over the last at least 6 to 7 years in a deep way, what I observe is that they bought their own flim-flam, right? It's like that point at which they lived in such an echo chamber of their own creation, which they knew it was a fake echo chamber, but that was part of the process. They lived in that echo chamber for so long. The Steve Bannons, the Mike Lindells, the Brandon Houses, all these guys, Stu Peters, that Seb Gorka, they started to believe that they actually were telling the truth. Now, not in a way that is like innocent. I'm not saying that. It's just that they were like, oh my God, I am untouchable because nobody ever challenges me. And we saw during those early, kind of civil and bar-related hearings that they were almost surprised to have the wind taken out of their sails. It's really quite a fascinating thing that no one in the media really talks about. That they really were high on their own supply. And it was like a shock to their system to have them questioned about things they had pushed forward, and to the point where they knew they had to lie about it. And they had to say things like, well, that's not what that meant, and that wasn't this, and that, like all this nonsense, right? So it's a really important part of the story that these folks who are really deep MAGA, they have been living in mostly that ecosystem of media of their own creation. And so they are going to, and they won an election, right? Won an election. And so they're going to continue to kind of live in that almost a dementia state because they have to, right? It's almost self-preservation. Because if the Nazis started to have self-reflection and say, "Oh my God, what the hell am I doing?" You wouldn't have had as many Nazis. So they're not having a lot of like self-reflective moments or anything like that, because they're emboldened by whatever gains they've made. But it's built on a very, very troubling house of cards. And we can see, they talk about fractures within the Trump administration and everything. You can see it starting, and that I think is part of this whole thing of getting high on your own supply and then discovering that it doesn't work for you. But what concerns me is the fact, I'll go back to my original point, which is that we really don't hear too much from the donor class, the Peter Thiels, et cetera, of the world. And I'm kind of curious about that. Because they're obviously impacted by what the actual actions day to day of this administration are, like Russ Vought and others who are cutting off grants and all these kinds of things. They're impacted by that in some way, shape, or form. And they haven't said anything that it's bad, good, otherwise. You haven't seen you haven't seen kind of any sign that they're influencing it in particular, so endorsing it probably. And one can very much imagine that the distraction helps them achieve the goals of eliminating the cathedral, right? Eliminating the universities and the pushback on that, the law firms, the co-opting of law firms, the privatization of services, this, I don't know what this DHS police force here in LA is, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think anybody really knows where they came from, because no one has been able to answer that for me. So, I think this is a very pivotal time. I suppose that's probably not the only pivotal time, but it just feels very pivotal in this moment, to have so much kind of just a rising level of kind of intimidation and terror here in Los Angeles. And it's not everywhere. They're keeping to certain pockets of the Los Angeles County in our cases. But at the same time, that can only expand. And I think as the desperation for distraction grows, I fear that these very real actions of terrorizing communities like ours and like many of yours will continue and increase, because it will divert our attention, to what is possible, what we need to be fighting. And we're going to need to be fighting all of it all at once. We're going to have to fight wars. We're going to have to fight illegal abductions of our friends, neighbors, and community. We're going to have to fight states' rights. We're going to have to fight for all of those things. I mean, there's just so many, and by design only means that by design they wanted to flood the zone, as Steve Bannon would say. It's interesting to watch Steve Bannon. I haven't watched him very much, but I know my friends do, and it's interesting. The few things that I do see is that he's really kind of, I don't know if he's on the outs. I don't know if he's like just in the background. I'm not really sure. Not really sure. I know, stupid MAGA have made us so busy. That's my biggest complaint, is I would be fighting for a more perfect union. I know, with any administration, right? That we know we're always going to have to fight the man on getting life to be better for everybody. But I was kind of hoping we wouldn't have to fight all the battles all at once. But that's not the luxury that we're in. We tried to do what we could to raise awareness, raise media literacy. You guys did your thing. Like everybody did their thing. And we all, I think, did really good work in that regard to help each other understand what's happening to the country. But it just never really got into the mainstream media, and it was really squashed when you think about the corporate purchases of media outlets and the way that's transformed places like CNN or MSNBC over the last 10 years. And also, the degradation of local journalism and other things. You see all the impacts of that. Oh, and that's the other thing. We haven't really, the enslavement of people in the prison system. That's just, you made me think of that, Jen. I know that probably wasn't what you're bringing up, but there's just that's the whole other thing, the privatization of everything. That's really what I'm thinking about, is what's happening that we're not really seeing, and it's going to bite us in the ass. And I think a lot of it can be hidden within the big, beautiful bullshit bill. So anyway, I don't know. I'm kind of going off at this point. The start of my senior year, I had a teacher talk about how living in interesting times wasn't always fun. 9/11 happened a few months later. Boy, howdy, was here. I mean, really, that's the thing. Interesting times. I remember being with a really bad boyfriend, and I would say to myself, gosh, I really wish that my life was boring. I remember, I just want a boring life. And yeah. So I know what that feels like on a different, like a micro level. Yeah, we haven't really dug into that, Jane, in terms of how, in fact, California voted against whatever it was last year or the year before we had an election. And California, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just, there was no opposition per se, but there was opposition. There wasn't anything for it in the ballot, and it was a measure to ban the use of prisoners as enslaved workforce. And it didn't pass. And I was like, what? Wait, what? And so, yeah, that's a whole other issue, that this country is really fucked up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, revolution is necessary. I agree. I was hoping we didn't have to go through this part in order to get to the revolution part, like the revolution outcomes. But here we are in the midst of a really, really fascist dictator regime that is a rogue regime breaking the law everywhere. And if Congress doesn't somehow rein this guy in, I'm not sure what's going to happen. And my heart goes out to everyone in the Middle East region who's suffering as the result of petulant men who want to preserve their freedom and their power, because Bibi and Dump are both criminals. So here we go. Anyway, we will hope for the best. I know that Jim is supposed to have a Substack at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be doing a space at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'll post those shortly on my social medias, but it'll take me a minute because I got to eat some lunch. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. This is important information for us to absorb. And we'll have to check out what's happening. Maybe we'll read a little bit tomorrow about the frickin' insurance pledge to get rid of prior authorizations. We'll see. I have my doubts. Anyway, thank you again. Very much appreciated. Thank you for coming today. I hope the rest of your Monday is good if I don't see you or hear from you. If not, I will be here. Yes, 8 your time. That's correct, Teresa. 8 your time. 8 your time. Tomorrow morning. Oh, it's so nice to see you, Harry. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow morning, Wake and Bake. We've got a lot. I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of shit happening. So we're going to be live tomorrow morning. We also have on our Discord, if you're not a member of Discord, please join it. It's on my YouTube page. If you don't know, you can join it from there. And on Tuesdays, we wear pink. No, on Tuesdays, we watch documentaries and in Discord, because we don't want to get a copyright strike. And so we go ahead and tomorrow night, we're watching the Jim Jordan piece that was made about the OSU and the Jim Jordan's implication in turning a blind eye to sexual abuse happening in the OSU wrestling program, and his role in that, etc., and the story of that. And that's a recent documentary. So we'll be watching that tomorrow night. I can't remember what it's called. And yeah, I mean, fun. Oh, and don't forget, this Saturday, we have a very special trivia night planned for Saturday. You're not going to want to miss this one, because it's going to be probably pretty fucking awesome. Okay, I'm just going to say myself. Okay. This Saturday we're doing Trader Trivia. That's right. Jen Griffey, who's in the chat now, beautiful Jen Griffey, my beautiful bestie, gave the idea, like, why don't we do trivia about like all the shit that's happened over the last few years, like the traders. And I'm like, oh fuck yeah, we will. And so I have been working on a plethora, a virtual plethora of questions related to all of the shit and the people shit. Surviving Ohio State. Thank you, Teresa. That's the name. So Trader Trivia this Saturday. And you're not going to be able to study for it, so don't even bother. You either know this shit or you don't, baby. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I have a ton of questions, and it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much fun. This Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, et cetera, same channel. But yeah, that's Saturday. So and we'll have a full week with this. And hopefully the dyno's going to get out this week. I just haven't figured out when. My flare up of my arthritis really settled over the last week, which was great. And but now I'm feeling like I can go ahead and get out there again. And I've got some new pens to write on my suit with. I'm excited. It's full of possibilities. And I feel like I'm doing a little expanding of my protesting. Like I want to do some stuff on Hollywood Boulevard because there's been a lot of tourists lately. So I want to kind of take advantage of that. And then also I was thinking, I don't know if I want to go to like one of the, like, I really can't stand the U.S. attorney here in Los Angeles that's based out of Los Angeles. I can't remember the way to pronounce his name. Apologies. But he's a real dick. And he's holding people and like criminalizing them, assisting people who were being shot at by tear gas. So I have an issue with the U.S. attorney here in Los Angeles, and I think he might need the dinosaur. The other piece is that Anduril, which is Palmer Lucky's little stupid dick drone company, is also based somewhere around here. And I was thinking of doing that. So I have a lot of ideas about where the dyno might go next. Obviously, I'll try to be at all the big events. But I'm also going to look at where I can be where, it probably won't get any attention, and that's fine. We've done that for years, haven't we? And that's cool. Private message in the Discord. So I have a good trader trivia question. How do I submit it? Oh yeah, you can send me a message in Discord, Neil. Just send it to me in Discord. See you in the Discord. That's right. So movies at the Discord tomorrow night. All right. Okay. Have a great rest of your Monday. I hope it gets better for all of us, and that means the whole world. Because nobody wants any of that white man drama. No, we really don't. Okay, we're going to do our outro again because we're just so cool and we like that outro. So, all right. I'll see you guys later. I love you. Bye. Except for the fact that it's not before all the other things. But this is kind of fun, isn't it? I think that's kind of fun. Okay, wait. I've got to move it to the top. Good thing I didn't take off all my clothes or something. That would have been embarrassing, huh? Where is it? Okay, wait. Oh, am I at the top? Okay, yeah, I guess I'm at the top. All right. Well, I'll see you guys later. Wait, we got to get the music and then I'm going to shut up. But I have to go down. Where is that music? Hold on just a minute. I don't even know. Oh, here it is. Okay, bye.